Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Only Stupid Answers. This is the show where we answer your questions about movies, TV shows, comic books, Echoes, Golden Globes, and more. I'm your host, DJ Wooldridge. With me, as always, is Roxy Stryer. How you doing, Roxy?
Unbelievable, DJ.
I love it. Let's good energy to start.
Incredible.
Yeah. Now, truthfully, never been better. So excited to be here.
All good over here. All perfect angel child. How about you, DJ? How you doing?
Doing A-okay. Doing okie dokie. So as I so cleverly implied at the start of the episode, today we are talking about Echo, the new Marvel show on Disney Plus. Plus some Golden Globes and some other movie news. But before we get into that, a little bit of business. As always, if you want to watch the show live, if you want to check out our Patreon exclusive shows like What We're Into or Spider-Versity, you can do that over at patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. If you give us a 5-star review on iTunes, we'll give you a firm thank you. We really appreciate that, and that's very helpful. And if you listen on Spotify, every week we ask a question. Last week's question was, what were your favorite movies? Nope, I didn't change it. The question was, what is your favorite DCEU movies? And the answers were, Yashu Wazalewski said, Man of Steel, probably. It feels the least tainted by Snyder Bros. And Raisa Marie says, favorite would have to be Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. And I find those two answers interesting, Roxy, because inevitably, whenever I post, I'm on Letterboxd, whenever I post my DCEU ranking, because you rank movies on Letterboxd, I inevitably get versions of these two comments, which are, they both start with, I've lost all respect for you because, and it's either, I've lost all respect for you because Man of Steel is not your number one, or I've lost all respect for you because you've ranked Birds of Prey too high. And to those people, I say, you're wrong. That's interesting, correct. Also, it's my list. I can rank them however I want.
I don't think it's incorrect that they've lost respect for you.
They're allowed to.
That's stupid. I think that the first comment was kind of interesting, not to you, the one that was written, because Man of Steel isn't tainted by Snyder Bros.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way.
You think the least tainted would be like the Suicide Squad.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like the Man of Steel, I feel like the Snyder Bros are still on about. So I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
It's also my least favorite DCU movie.
It's not my least, but it is definitely right in the middle of the road, because it does have one of my. It has a moment that I kept. At the end of Zod, how it ends with Zod, it's just one of those. I kept hoping we'd like escape the gravitational pull of that. Like that, it put me in such a down mood leaving the movie. But I wanted, like so many DC fans, I wanted this to happen. So I was like, okay, we'll let it slide, man. Maybe Batman v Superman will like right the ship, and then it's like, okay, all right, we're still struggling here. But also the Jonathan Kent stuff. There's things to not like about that movie.
Yeah, it's not fair of me because there are worse DCU movies. Like there's definitely worse DCU movies, but I will never get over the dog. I'll never get over that's what it was. That will never be my Superman.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Like just watching that moment, they lost me on the entire universe.
Yeah.
That's how he lets him go is like just beyond idiotic and upsetting to me.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. I tried.
The whole point is that even if you're Superman, there's nothing you can do about it. The point is not you're Superman and there's everything you could do about it, but you're not because anonymity.
Yeah, exactly.
That killed me. I mean, I just am never, ever okay with that iteration.
And also,
I know the people hate on me for that, but to this day, it drives me effing insane.
I agree. I agree. Also, I'm an animal lover. I have a dog that I love very much. It's a dog, man. No, between your dad and a dog, like fucking, what are we doing? What's happening?
What are we doing? What are we doing? Also,
Uh,
out my identity. I don't give an F. That's my mother effing dad. And I'm going to save his life because I can, because I am Superman.
yeah, and
I
also
do not care.
we've established how whatever. We don't need to relitigate Man of Steel. You and I are on the same page. Also, I
Just
think
so annoying to me, DJ. I can't ever move on.
you and I are also on the same page of man. I don't know why Birds of Prey gets so much heat. It's like good. It's like a really entertaining movie.
So fun. So fun. Even just like the way that it's shot and looks and the costumes, but also the actual script is really fun.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. I like it quite a bit,
Yeah.
which is why I rank it so high on my thing because it's good. It's one of the few. There's like 4 DC movies that I can like. Yeah, these are good movies. I can recommend them to people. DCEU movies. There's more DC movies than that, but the 4 DC. Anyway, whatever.
Okay, wait. So Birds of Prey, Suicide Squad,
Do you
The
want
Suicide Squad.
Do you want my ranking? I'll give it to you.
I'm guessing it's Birds of Prey, The Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and Shazam.
All right, here top 4. I feel confident about these: The Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Birds of Prey.
Aquaman, Birds of Prey. Okay,
Yeah.
so Shazam is not in your top 4.
Not my top 4. After that, these next 2 enjoy, but they have some flaws, but I enjoy them. Blue Beetle and Shazam. Now we're getting into at this point, after this point, it's kind of a wash. It's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, after this, my next one is Justice League, the 2017 Justice League, because it has moments.
Did you rank 2017 Justice League and Snyder Justice League differently?
Zack Snyder's Justice League is my least favorite DCEU movie. It's the bottom of my list. I hate that
Okay,
movie.
is it your least favorite because you like it the least, or is it your least favorite because everything?
I both. I like it the least, and also everything else. And as we talked about with the Flash, when we talk about the Flash, can you separate it from all the other things? Your mileage may vary. I have trouble doing it, but also, and I said this. I did a little TikTok about Justice League. If I'm going to watch a movie that's not good, I would rather be 2 hours than 4 hours. You know what I mean? So for me, bottom of the list. But those are my top. We don't need to go through the rest of them. But that's after Justice League. It's Batman v Superman because I do like it more than Man of Steel. Then Man of Steel. Then Wonder Woman 1984. Aquaman 2. Flash. Black Adam. Shazam 2. Suicide Squad. Snyder Cut. And that's it. It's a surprising it's
I like waiting for more, and that's all.
that's
all.
literally all the movies, which
Yeah.
always surprises me. It's like, wow, that's it. All right.
What's your number one Marvel?
I split them up. Like if you follow somebody like Hector on Letterboxd, they have them all together. That feels overwhelming to me. So I have it split up on Infinity Saga and Multiverse Saga. So my favorite in the Infinity Saga is Civil War. Because to me, that's like the sweet spot of like, we've got everybody, but it's a little bit more folk. You know what I mean? And similar to like, why is Wonder Woman 2 on my DCU list? I think you could argue Wonder Woman's definitely more important than the Suicide Squad. You could argue that it's better than the Suicide Squad, but this is my list. And even though I love Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad's more me. It's like, yeah, that's me. So similar with Civil War, like Black Panther, you could argue it is the best MCU movie. It's definitely more important than the other MCU movies. It's definitely more important than Civil War. But I think Civil War, to me, I enjoy more. And to me is also.
I think Civil War is so effing good.
Yeah, I like Civil War a lot. And I think it's the best example of what the MCU does well, which is like, hey, here's all our people. Here's all. It's not as like for me, Infinity War. I know a lot of people like it more than me. It's a little too bloated, and I like Endgame a lot. Anyway, Civil War is that sweet spot. What about for you? What do you know? What's your like off the top of your head your favorite MCU movie?
It might be Endgame.
Endgame's real good.
I mean, we waited for that for a long time.
Long time. And I think the other and like I think one of the things I like when I'm talking about like Endgame and Infinity War, it's just Endgame's what I wanted. I want Cap and Iron Man to kiss and make up. I want that
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want that it's a little bit more focused. It's just more, it's not necessarily better than Infinity War. It's just more of what I like and want.
Yeah. At some point, I did a whole ranking of them somewhere. I was just looking at my phone to see if I could find it. I think we did it on World Girls, but I think it was before even. I don't know during which movie had come out or hadn't yet. But when I my list always changes, and I tell the people this all the time. There's like 35 movies or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
there's just a
crazy.
crazy amount of movies. So depending on my rewatches, what I've seen most recently, how they age with me or whatever,
Yeah.
uh, Endgame's the one that like stands out. There's just so many powerful moments in it. But then it just like kind of depends on my mood on which movie. Like it's not like Endgame's my favorite to rewatch all the time standalone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, like oftentimes I'll throw it back to phase one. So
To your point, so like I told you, I split my MCU list into Infinity Saga and Multiverse Saga. Infinity Saga has 23 films. Multiverse Saga, which I include the shows, and this does include Echo yet because they haven't put it on Letterboxd. Multiverse Saga is 20 projects, so that's
yeah,
40,
there's a lot of
21 with Echo, so that's 44 MCU things.
I asked the other day to Steph on the World Girls. I'm curious what your answer to this, DJ, is. What is your favorite Disney Plus show? You could
Andor,
answer it
easily.
That's what she said.
Yeah, Andor.
Okay, what's your favorite Disney Plus Marvel show?
She-Hulk.
I think that's mine too.
Yeah, I like She-Hulk a lot. I think it's of the shows, other than maybe What If, it feels the most like a show. We'll talk about it more once we get into Echo, but a lot of the Marvel shows feel like a few different shows spliced together, or you know what I mean? Like She-Hulk, it feels like a show you'd see on CBS or something. Like it is a workplace comedy that just happens to star a superhero. And I think
she's so good and fun.
And every little cameo works towards like Daredevil's not in the show just to be in the show. He is part of her love interest journey, and her actually finding like a good guy that like whether they end up together or not. It's the idea of like, oh, a guy like this exists for you.
Yeah,
so it's not just
you don't have to do what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just a cameo for a cameo's sake. It actually plays to her arc. Like, and also that type of meta stuff. It felt like it felt like a show written by somebody like me that's able to be like, hey, I love this shit, but isn't this kind of stupid? Isn't this kind of stupid? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we're on the same page. Yes, totally. I'm on. Yeah. So,
and the ending was so great, and people hated that, but I thought it was awesome. Do you know, DJ? Let's see how well you know me. You have to think. You really have to think about this one.
Okay.
Do you know what my favorite Disney Plus show is? It's almost an unfair question because of what the answer is.
So I'm gonna think. It's one that I don't associate with Disney Plus. Oh, is it going to be Game Changers? Is it going to be Mighty Ducks?
Yes.
Did you see season 2 though?
Yes, okay. I loved Mighty Ducks Game Changers.
Is it coming back, or is it just the 2 seasons?
It was canceled after season 2, which is so sad. That show is awesome.
I feel bad because obviously I'm not the demographic for this, but I know like Percy Jackson fans, you know, apparently they didn't like the movies and they were excited for the show, but I've heard like nothing about this show that I assume Disney spent a lot of money on.
Yeah.
And so I just think about when you bring up Game Changers is like, what are these outlets doing to get eyes on their shows? You know?
Yeah, I know. It's like the Disney Plus one is so weird because more so than any other platform by far, they are a franchise platform.
Yeah.
Like when I think Disney Plus, immediately you think two things, right?
Yeah.
You think Star Wars and you think Marvel.
Yep.
That's where the Star Wars and Marvel shows are. But that's Crazy Town USA.
Yeah.
That can't just be what the whole platform of shows is. Especially when I don't happen to think that those shows happen to be that amazing.
Yeah.
And also, like, what about the kids?
Mm-hmm.
What about the children?
Totally. You think about content that would be on Disney Channel. Think about it's interesting. And I think I wonder if that's part of the reason why Netflix still has the market dominance that it does, is because that is a platform where people will just kind of dick around to see if there's something they want to watch. And I don't know if people think of Disney Plus the same. Like, I'll just click around and see if there's something I want to watch.
Completely. Apple's starting to do that for me too. But you're so right. On Netflix, regardless of, I made my top 10 list this year with you.
Mm-hmm.
And for TV, It's the first year in years there's not one Netflix show on my top 10 shows of the year.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild because I watched at least 40 Netflix shows. It's the one I watched the most content on. And yet, come January, the top of January this year, I'm like, ugh, I don't know what I want to watch. There's no new shows that have come out yet. What do? I open Netflix. It's always my number one go-to. Stumbled upon this show called Loudermilk. Have you heard about this?
I have, but I can't.
So it was just randomly.
I haven't watched it, but I've heard of it.
It was randomly in my recommended. We could talk more about it if we want in what we're into. I'm not done with it yet, so that's why I haven't brought it up. But I saw it and I was like, I like Ron Livingston. The word Loudermilk is weird. Let me just click on this. I don't know one person who's seen this show. Nobody's ever recommended this to me.
Yeah.
Netflix is my let me stumble upon it. And I binged through season 1 in one day. I'm on season 2 right now. Season 3 dropped this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to be done with this next week. It's awesome. Yeah. And it's like, that's never once going to happen to me on Disney Plus. There's no world in which I open up the app and I'm like, this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Same with, so I think for me, like, Disney Plus, I go to watch specific shows, like Marvel shows or Star Wars shows, like you're talking about. Max, I pretty much solely go to for HBO content. If there's the new season of True Detective, I'm going to HBO to check that shit out. It's almost never like, let's see what's on. Unless I'm looking for a movie, I'm like, who's got what movie in their catalog this week, kind of a thing, But like as far as new shows, yeah, it's just a question of like I guess I stumbled across Scavenger's Reign because I was watching something else on Max. I don't know. I feel like the other streaming platforms could do a better job of directing people to some of their new content, especially if you have something like, Mighty Ducks Game Changers that would appeal to a certain audience if they know it exists.
Yeah. I'm looking at Kayla Marie, who says, I think that Netflix has the best user interface. The other platforms have terrible user interface. LOL. That's what UI is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I so agree with you, Kayla Marie. I've been talking about this for years. It is baffling to me how absolutely confusingly complicated some of these platforms are to find the show you're already looking for.
Yeah.
Like, all of the effing time on Hulu. All of the time. I am currently watching a show and it will bring me to Hulu and I will scroll to find that show that I'm currently watching.
Yeah.
And it's nowhere on my page. And I'm like, the fuck? So I have to type in the name of the show in the search bar.
Yeah.
That's Crazy Town USA. And they have a previously watched or recommended and it's never in there. Don't even get me started on Peacock or Paramount Plus, how poorly I think that they're organized.
Yeah.
The by far and away best one is Netflix. It's like what you are currently watching, what we recommend for you, top 10 shows in the US, top 10 movies in the US, top comedies, top stand-up specials, top this. And I'm just like, okay, I know exactly where to go for exactly what I'm looking for. Why didn't everybody just steal this?
Yeah,
I think Netflix does it great.
I don't know, I watch stuff on my TV. I have a Roku TV, so I don't know if maybe it's a Roku thing. Every single app, every single one of them. And in fact, I think Netflix is the buggiest by far. It crashes on me all the time. They all have weird fucking hiccups that I don't, and they're constantly changing. And I will say, when I go on Netflix, and again, this might be like a Roku TV thing. There have been times I've gone on that like my watch, it just doesn't exist. It's just not there.
You know what? You want to know what's so crazy, DJ? Downstairs, I have a Roku. And in my room, I have an Apple.
Yeah.
And my Roku all the time fucks up my Netflix.
Yeah, and it's
100% of the time it glitches in the middle and takes a really long time to load.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's up with that. And I really like the Roku TV actually, but that happens so often on my apps there, and my Apple TV doesn't do that.
Yeah, and it's a tricky, and it's a good, you have a good situation in that it doesn't do it here, it does do it here. Like for me, like this is my one thing. So it's like, is this an internet issue? Is it a TV issue? Is it an app issue? Who am I mad about that I can't watch the fucking show that I'm trying? You know what I mean? What is
Yeah.
and
I do have
anyway,
one big issue with Apple TV though.
which
One
is
big issue. They do this thing that is so fucking annoying, DJ, where when you finish a episode of whatever you're watching,
yeah.
it puts you on another episode of a different show immediately, which is fine, but okay.
Yeah.
So then you exit out of that. But Apple TV has your queue lined up for you at the bottom of what you're currently watching so that it will just pop up for the next week. So like if it sees that I'm watching The Bachelor, when there's a new episode of The Bachelor, it will go there.
Yeah.
So all the episodes that it puts you onto, it puts those down there. And it's like, I didn't choose to watch that.
Yes.
That's not in my queue. You made me watch that.
Yeah.
Get out of here. And you can hold it down and say like,
Get out of my
eliminate
thing.
this
Yeah.
from my queue. But when you hold it down, it freezes the app. And it's like, so then I've just decided to keep them there. But I'm like, I don't want to watch Celebrity Family Feud right now. I didn't put that here. You guys made me do Dancing with the Stars down here. I didn't choose that life.
Here's the way it feels to me. It feels like, we've been lured into this culture that was built to us. I'm talking about streaming. I'm talking about like even Googling things, just like looking stuff up. And then all these companies decided, you know what? We're not making enough money. And so they've like slashed their IT. Everything that was convenient, like even just 5 years ago, is now a huge pain in the ass for reasons that I can't. Like I was working on something in Microsoft Office and I was having trouble figuring it out. And I used to be able to just Google like, hey, this is my problem. It's full of like fucking sponsored shit. Like I can't just find the answer. Like Google's not useless, but it's getting there. Twitter's functionally useless. All these apps are like buggy, and like the fact that like you could use it on one app platform and it works fine, on another platform and it doesn't. And it's just like I'm so frustrated all the time, and I just want these things I'm spending money on to work, and I feel like it's gotten worse. And maybe it's just me. But it's I don't like the way things are run. On that note, I thought I had a good transition into this thing, but I don't think I do.
Wait, DJ, I was gonna ask you. I would have set you up because I needed to know what the Gunplay update was.
Go to gunplaymovie.com, click our pre-launch page. We gave the whole spiel last week, but maybe you didn't listen to last week. Roxy and I are making a movie.
You need a reminder. DJ,
yes.
People need reminders on this.
Remind them.
This is something that I have found, DJ.
Yeah.
If I post on Insta Story one Gunplay thing and say, click on this, go to the page and click notify me at launch.
Yeah, you're doing great, by the way.
Then there will be 20 people that click on the link.
Yeah.
If I post it a second time right after that, literally 30 seconds after that, and say, did you do it? Click on this thing. 40 people will do it.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone's mind works like that. You're clicking through. And that's why we need to remind them, DJ. We need to tell them here. We need to tell Mike and Leonard and Kayla and all of our people. We can't stop telling them. We must keep telling them. They got to go do it. Have you done it? I don't know. Let us know.
Please, Roxy, speaking truth to you, go to gunplaymovie.com, go to the pre-launch page, click notify me on launch. These numbers are kind of helping me dictate. This project's so much bigger than anything I've ever attempted before. So these numbers help me know, gauge audience interest, let me know what the campaign can do. And it also does you the favor of letting you know when it launches, because we're going to have some launch exclusives that you're not going to want to miss. This is a crime thriller, written and directed by me, starring Roxy Stryer and a bunch of other cool people like Steve Zaragoza, Bree Estrig, Whitney Moore, and many more. If you want to be notified right when it launches, so you can support a movie that you're going to love. You're going to love it. You're going to want to go to gunplaymovie.com. And I'll remind you again at the end of the episode.
Because they need reminders.
They need the reminders. I just thought, I remember when I was thinking about the episode, like, what my perfect segue is going to be is this. And then I couldn't remember what it was. But what we do have a perfect segue for that now we're past, but I'll go back to, is we were talking about the apps. And we got a big announcement this week, because the show that was on the apps ain't going to be on the apps no more. Well, it will be eventually, almost inevitably. But Disney announced a Mandalorian and Grogu movie. I'm going to hope that that's not actually the name of the movie, but whatever. And this is the press release we got. The Mandalorian and Grogu are embarking on a new adventure to movie theaters. Directed by Jon Favreau and produced by Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni, this new chapter in the Mandalorian and Grogu's journey will go into production in 2024. That's this year, everybody. Quote, I have loved telling stories set in the rich world George Lucas created. The prospect of bringing the Mandalorian and his apprentice Grogu to the big screen is extremely exciting, Jon Favreau shared. Kathleen Kennedy, president of Lucasfilm, added, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have ushered into Star Wars two new and beloved characters, and this new story is perfect. Is a perfect fit for the big screen. So, this
DJ,
is joining to other Star Wars movies they're doing.
Not you first, me first on this
Please.
one. DJ?
Yeah.
I know you're not the target audience for this.
What are you talking about?
DJ?
Yeah.
I know this didn't get your juices flowing.
Uh-huh.
DJ, I know you saw this and you rolled your eyes at least 4 times.
What are you talking about?
When I saw this, my first thought was, ooh, DJ's going to have a field day with this one. Okay. But this is for me.
Yeah.
This is for me. They're doing this for me. Like, specifically me. I can't help it. I'm a sucker for this.
Yeah.
When I think about when we talk about our favorite Disney Plus shows, sometimes Mandalorian has done some wandering. So I don't know if it's necessarily my number one Star Wars show or not, but the Mando Grogu stuff, I eat it up. Give me a spoon. I'll have every bite.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel like this is an adventure movie. I love the two of theirs dynamic. There's so many different directions we can go in this. And I want to see Grogu evolve more, their relationship evolve more. I don't expect this to be everyone's favorite Star Wars movie, but I do think if we can just go in and be like, this will be a fun time, then I'm going to live for it. I hope it's fun. I hope it doesn't take itself too seriously. I hope that they go on a journey and we love the adventure and it's kind of a full circle. I hope you don't have to have seen the show to watch the movie.
Yeah.
I hope that this can bring in audiences to the show that don't usually watch the TV shows, but they just are like, oh, I like Mando and I really like him with Grogu. And that's a cute little kid he's got there. I am stoked on this. And I think it's a great thing to do to bring more people to Disney Plus, because I think it will do that. But also just for the fans that have been loving their dynamic, why not?
So do you think this reflects kind of a reevaluation? Why a movie instead of season 4? Does this reflect maybe a reevaluation of what Disney's doing with Star Wars? By the way, in this announcement, they did say we're getting an Ahsoka season 2.
I didn't see Ahsoka season 1. How crazy is that, DJ?
Yeah, so I'm not going to spoil it, but I mean, you got to do it with the way it ends. It's like, well, that didn't do anything. You got to do a season 2. That is crazy, Roxy. That is crazy. But at least here's the thing, though, and you did watch Andor, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here I've talked to multiple people that I was like, you gotta watch Andor, and they're like, I don't know, I didn't like Ahsoka, and I'm like, that's the point. If you're gonna watch the bad ones, you gotta watch the good one. Watch the good one. If you're gonna watch the bad ones, do yourself a favor and watch the good one.
Remember, I thought Andor was fine.
I know, but at least you watched it. Is my point.
I did.
Anyway.
But I think that means that I might have better time with Ahsoka than other people did.
And Ahsoka's fine. There's a couple episodes in the middle that I actually really enjoyed. I just don't like a lot of Disney Plus shows. I don't think it like went anywhere. It doesn't feel like a show. Most Disney Plus shows, and we're gonna get into this with Echo. It doesn't feel like somebody went to the studio with like, here's my vision for this show. You know what I mean? Anyway, the question was, do you think this reflects kind of not just a reevaluation of Star Wars, but I feel like studios are reevaluating this whole streaming thing, and part of that, this kind of feels like a reflection of that it's like, well, maybe we'll make more money if we put it in theaters first.
Do you think the intention for this movie is theaters?
It is. It'll be theatrically released. Let me see.
Yeah. Okay. Because
would perfect for the big screen.
Sense to me.
Yeah.
Perfect for the big screen. Okay. I don't know the answer to that, DJ. It's so challenging right now, and I've been talking about this with Christian Harloff a lot. What should go on streaming and what should go to the theaters?
Yeah.
Because I feel of a couple minds about this. I love the movie theaters. I love the movie theater going experience. As Margot Robbie said during the Golden Globes, which we will speak about, but
Yeah.
she said, "Thank you to everybody who did the greatest thing on earth, go to the movies."
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I love the movies like you, DJ. You
Yeah.
know, I grew up loving the movies. Going to the theater, nothing beats that experience for me of I go all out. I spend when I go to the movies, I'm like, okay, I've got at least $20 of snacks in me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting popcorn. I'm getting Sour Patch Kids. I might be getting cookie dough ball bites. I'm definitely getting my ice that I'm eating on the side. I eat it like chips. I love that. It makes everything better.
Yeah.
I have my rituals at the movie. I sit on the aisle, as you know. I love being able to see out of the corner of my eye everybody's reactions to the movie.
Yeah.
I love hearing the sound of laughter. I love hearing screams and jump scares. The point of this is I'm not alone in this.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm saying this and you're sitting there thinking, me too, there's a lot of us who still love this. I don't want the movie going experience to die.
Yeah.
I want things to do well in theaters. That being said, a lot of movies are really struggling to make their money back right now. I was devastated to hear something like A Joyride did not do well in theaters, or Anyone But You did not do well in theaters.
Yeah.
I don't want this to just be a place where only tentpoles can perform.
Yeah.
It's fucked up that we're never going to get another rom-com again on the big screen. Like, that's just crazy. It's only going to be Fast and the Furious, Mission Impossible, Marvel, DC, Harry Potter, Star Wars. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. Those are all we get. That's crazy. I want maybe the occasional animated Pixar movie. I love indie movies there. I love seeing everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
I love seeing all the A24 movies in there. I love seeing horror movies there. Luckily, the horror movies are still performing, so they will.
Mm-hmm.
But all of this to say, long rant short, I think that every company is reassessing right now what they're doing where. And for Disney specifically, they need to be making money on their franchise properties.
Yeah.
And I don't know that Mandalorian has made them any money so far,
Yeah.
because where it is on Disney Plus, I don't know that it's bringing in the people. So in order for them to make money on that franchise, I think they kind of have to do a movie.
Yeah.
And that might be the case for a lot of different things. Like I feel more confident that Obi-Wan brought in viewership to Disney Plus because of the star power and people maybe going to visit than a Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that that's true. Somebody could probably check the numbers on that. But when you have
it could just be locked away in a black box. Maybe there's no way to know.
totally,
Somebody
but
knows. Somebody knows.
I would just think that people weren't signing up for Disney Plus for Mando.
Yeah.
But they might if it's in theaters first.
Yeah.
The way that people already loved the character of Obi-Wan, and then that might get them to go over there, right? So
Yeah.
I do think that they're reassessing their strategy. I think Disney Plus is struggling right now to find its footing, and Disney wants the streaming service to work. They need the streaming service to work because they have to have their own platform. There's no world in which Disney doesn't have a platform. I know they also have Hulu,
Yeah.
but I mean a platform for their major tentpoles.
Absolutely.
And so now they're trying to restructure. How do we get eyes and ears here? And this is one possible strategy. I don't know that it will work, but I think it has a shot.
Yeah, I think all that makes a lot of sense. And I think just on a Mandalorian level, I think this makes sense for a couple reasons. One, I don't know with each season of Mandalorian if there's been enough meat on them bones to support a season of TV movie. Perfect. That's perfect. Second, we'll probably be able to get Pedro Pascal's face in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Scheduling wise, budget wise, you'll probably be able to do it. And people do have a lot. Yeah, I think this is a good choice for a variety of reasons. I don't want to. What am I going to say here? I was going to say I don't want streaming. I don't want them to abandon streaming, but I also like you were just saying. I like movies. I like going to movies. But similar to you, I don't want it to just be these big tent poles. Kayla Marie says we all made going to see Oppenheimer and Barbie a whole event. You know, I think theaters need to evolve somehow to capture that energy for other movies. Stuff is changing. and I don't know about the streaming of it all. I think one of the things I'm reacting to is I've seen a lot of people be like, streaming's a mistake. We should have never gone to streaming. Da 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 da. And it's like, well, you remember when you had to like pay a bunch of money for cable and then they ran ads and you had like 2,000 channels, but you could never find anything you wanted to watch? I don't think the problem is streaming. I think the problem is they're turning streaming into cable and they're not, and it's the execs siphoning money from it for their yachts and not paying their performers and shit like that. I think streaming as a concept, I like. I like over linear TV. But
How many yachts can you be on at the same time? That is a question that I need somebody to answer.
Yeah.
For me. Also, DJ, I don't like the fact that I'm being snack shamed right now.
You are kind of being snack shamed in the chat. People are listen.
Listen. I want to be perfectly clear about something. I live in Los Angeles, California. If I buy a water, one candy, and a popcorn, that's $20 right there. Do not come at me for snack shaming purposes. I also want to say I'm spoiled enough that I don't pay for a lot of these movies because we're screening them. So I do allocate $20 for my snacks. Do not snack shame me. This makes me happy.
Yeah.
I like to have a tea. I like to have my popcorn and I like to have candy. Variety is the spice of life. This is very important to me. I will not take any more follow-up questions at this time.
Here's my other thing, by the way, to your argument of wanting to see stuff in theaters. I went to a screening of Mean Girls and I was grabbing some food before the screening. And so I had to sit down and wait for my meal. And, you know, I'm a people watcher. So I'm like watching people and I'm able to see over somebody's sitting at a table and they've got their laptop open and they're watching a K-drama at 1.5 speed. I'm like, why is it moving like this? Oh, they've got it like at 1.5 speed. Why would you watch anything this way? And it's like, that's the guy. It's the beauty of theater. You get to sit there and it's like, no, here's the movie. Pay attention to the movie.
It's actually a really good point though, DJ, because even if it's not at the 1.5 speed, there is very rarely ever anymore where I'm watching a movie at home and I don't get a call during it, a text during it that I'm responding to.
Yeah.
In the movie theater, something horrible could happen at home. I don't know. I am not checking my phone during the movie. Unless it is the world's worst movie, I will check the time once to be like, how long
are we almost out of here? Yeah.
But that is the extent of it. Like, I do not, we see sometimes in screenings, somebody will get up and then they'll go take a call or something. And I get it. You're a parent or whatever. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But come hell or high water, I do not do that during screenings. I do not text. I do not call. There's nothing. And that's cool. Because then I get to just see the art for 2 hours. That's my jam, which I like.
Leonard Kim, before we end this talk on streaming, says, I think the Hulu roll-up is huge for Disney. And I'm just going to be candid. I'm a little worried about that because right now I love Hulu because it's where I get to watch all my Justified.
What's the Hulu roll-up?
Disney's sucking up Hulu, so it's all going to be on the one Disney Plus app. And I just have
When?
Sometime this year, I think. I don't remember the specifics. But I just have trouble imagining all of my favorite FX shows living on Disney Plus. And so it's like, I kind of like that they're separate personally. And it's like separate branding. Like I know like, ooh, the adult stuff's on Hulu. Like Leonard Kenny is on I need to watch last season of Leonard Kenny. That's on Hulu. Is that going to be on Disney Plus? I fucking doubt it.
My choice says it already happened.
And it hasn't. I still have my 2 separate apps.
Me too.
I know in other parts of the world it's the same thing, but here's the thing. Everybody, whenever I bring up this concern, everybody's like, well, in Australia, it's already one app. And I'm like, but here's the difference though. Australia's not fucking America, right? We were founded by Puritans, okay? We're not going to have some of that shit on their Disney Family app. It's not, you know what I mean? So,
so Hulu has its own tab on Disney Plus, says Mike. Does that mean right now I don't need to be paying for Hulu and Disney Plus?
I don't know, Roxy. I don't know. We'll have to look into it and get back. We'll have to get back to you guys at home. But before we do, just real briefly, we're running a little long already, but Golden Globes happened, whether you like it or not. I thought we were done with the Globes. I guess we're not. Roxy, you watched enough of it. What were your thoughts on the Golden Globes?
It's a bummer because I don't like shredding comedians when they bomb.
Yeah.
Joe Coy bombed. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And Does that mean that he's not a great comedian? No, it doesn't mean that. I don't know his work very well. Here's what
Mm-hmm.
I do know. All of the stand-ups that I love him.
Okay.
So he's well respected in the stand-up community. Like uh my friend Tehran, Mark Ellis said positive things about him. Winston Marshall said great things about him. Like there's people have really gone to bat for him, and they just every great comedian at some point bombs, and unfortunately, he bombed on this stage,
Yeah.
and he had less than 2 weeks to prepare for this. I think it's a tough job, and like Michael Che said. They might be better getting a magician in the future. Like, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
that comedians should even be doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Uh, he that being said, he did a couple things where you don't do as a stand-up. You
Yeah.
don't throw the writers under the bus consistently and not take, not pivot and not do your own thing. That's crazy.
Especially coming off of a writer's strike.
Yeah, that's just crazy. You don't go say you've watched all the movies, but then from Barbie, what you take away is it's a movie about boobies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just was so not great, but that happens to people. Some of the speeches were really nice. I love Io. I think she is a true stud, and I think that she was awesome in The Bear. I think she's awesome in Bottoms. I think she's having a killer couple years. It was hysterical to hear her be the only person ever that I can think of that thanked her manager and agent's assistants.
Mm-hmm.
Go on with your bad self, queen.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a couple other funny moments. Yorgos being obsessed with Bruce Springsteen like me, I thought was an amazing moment. Loved that. There was a moment beforehand where Brie Larson completely fangirled over J-Lo.
Yeah.
Thought that was really endearing too. People hate Brie Larson. I think that's nuts.
Yeah.
I think she's awesome. And it's moments like this, I think she just really appreciates being in the industry. And I love that for anybody because, as you and I know, DJ, it's just so hard. So anybody who appreciates where they are,
Yeah.
I have more respect for. And yeah, some of the winners were the right choices. And Kieran Culkin was really funny. Pedro suck it moment,
Mm-hmm.
funny. Overall, a little bit lackluster, but these days, if somebody's not slapping somebody in the face, we're going to call it lackluster.
We're gonna call it, and we'll call it a win. Yeah, I'm looking over the list of winners here. We don't really have time to go through them all, but it's like, yeah, all these are great. We got Christopher Nolan, Lily Gladstone, Ali Wong, because Golden Globes do both movies and TV. The only one, Divine Joy Randolph, she's great. I didn't see the holdovers, but she's great. I'm glad she got an award. Elizabeth
see it
Debicki. Sarah Snook. I don't know. I know Golden Globes have their awards kind of demarcated out in a weird way. They found a way to give the award to multiple dudes from Succession, but I like both Matthew McFadden and Kieran Culkin, so I'm not going to complain. I thought they both did great work. So I don't know how that gets divided up, but good for them. Yeah, so this all looks good to me. The one thing as I scroll through this list, the one that I would have a nit to pick is best comedy? Yeah, here we go. Best motion picture musical comedy. Poor Things got it over Barbie, and I don't agree with that personally. Although
what was it that Barbie won for? Because they were on stage. Was it Greta?
It was most money. They introduced a new award this year of like, what's your favorite blockbuster? What's your favorite movie that made the most money? And it's like, fuck off, get the fuck out of here. They made the most money. That was their award. I will say though, just so it's not entirely Poor Things slander because I liked it fine. Emma Stone winning for her performance in that movie is deserved because she's really good in it.
I haven't seen it. And I love Yorgos.
Yeah, she's really great in it. So there you go. It doesn't
Is it
sound
only
like,
out in theaters?
yes, for now. So it sounds like I didn't miss much as far as the Globes went. But now, everybody, we're going to be talking about a not Golden Globe nominated show, Echo, over on Disney Plus. This is the new Marvel TV show that follows Alaqua Cox's Maya Lopez, who we've last seen in the Hawkeye show. It also includes Vincent D'Onofrio returning as Wilson Fisk. The summary is thus: Maya Lopez must face her past, reconnect with her Native American roots, and embrace the meaning of family and community if she ever hopes to move forward. So we'll start spoiler-free. Roxy, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on this show?
To quote the children these days, it was super mid.
Okay.
I thought this show was really lackluster. I think that if we didn't need to talk about it, I probably would have bailed.
Hmm.
I don't want to be the most negative person in the room because I know people are liking this show a lot. I I think that something weird that affected my viewing of this show is that I had just binged Reservation Dogs, which I
Hmm.
absolutely loved, and loved the way that they showed the relationships with ancestors.
Yeah.
And it's something that we don't see often on TV. And I didn't think Echo did as good of a job with it, even remotely. Like the connection and like the way that they would show it.
Yeah.
Um, it made me also question like what is actually going on here, and spoiler free, but they made some choices with ancestor stuff that I was like, wait, what in this universe?
Hmm.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Um, I also I also thought that there was some moments that were like a little that I was like, oh, okay, okay, I'm rooting for you or you. And there were some moments that I was like, I do like this. So it's not like the whole time I was miserable. There's definitely some cool fight sequences
Yeah.
that I enjoyed. I like Maya, and I think that actress is really good.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And yeah, overall, I was just like, I guess this is another one of the shows.
And it's unfortunate because I feel like that's kind of where the Marvel Disney Plus brand has landed. It's like, hey, here's another show. And it's like, well, but did somebody have like a clear vision for it? Did you know why you were making this show? Because that's one of the issues. I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed it more than Secret Invasion. And I can't remember the last Marvel Disney Plus. Oh, Loki season 2. I probably enjoyed it more than that too. But it does feel, I would use the term aimless. I think a good example is they don't have it until like the first episode, but the opening credit sequence is set to a song by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs called "Burning" that I think is actually a really good song.
Yeah.
But the way the intro cuts it together feels really haphazard. Like it feels really like wonky. And I don't know if it's because I like the song and I listen to the song and it's like, wait, that's not. But it feels like it's like, yeah, we like the idea of it, but we're going to chop it up to fit what we're doing. But it doesn't work. The song doesn't work that way. And that was kind of my overall vibe of the show. Like there's a show here that works, and you've cut it together in a way that it kind of doesn't work. Specifically, I think that's most noticeable in the first episode, which the first like 20 minutes feels like a clip show. Like, hey, here's Maya as a kid, by the way, and then here's Maya's relationship with Kingpin, by the way, and then also here's some stuff that it's funny because this guy has the Marvel Spotlight banner of like, hey, you don't need to have watched other things before watching this, except Hawkeye and probably Daredevil, at least season 1. And it's like, well, don't get the fuck out of here then, because like you spend a good chunk of the first episode recapping what happened in Hawkeye. That's not a standalone story. And I don't know. Obviously, I don't know the production of Echo, and I don't know what went into it. But it feels like, to me, it feels like a couple things. It feels like, from what we understand, there was a time where Disney just wanted all the content it could get, and so they're like, who do we have? Let's give everybody. We have Echo. Let's do an Echo show. And nobody stopped to think of like, what would an Echo show look like? What story would it try to tell? Where, you know what I mean?
Why?
Yeah.
And why? Like what is the purpose of us doing this in the greater, because you are attached to the greater world. Like what I think She-Hulk did a great job with of doing is being like, actually we don't want to be that, like this world is the world we're in, but we are our own thing.
Yeah.
This show was like, this world's the world we're in and we're in it. We're in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but why?
And I think that comes to me, that speaks to the disconnect there. I think you're absolutely right. I think if they were able to be like, yeah, we're part of the MCU, but that kind of doesn't matter. This is the story we're telling. But it doesn't, I never really got the sense of they knew what story they were telling. And so they're kind of beholden to the greater MCU of all, but they're not. And so there's just this disconnect. And I think it's a disconnect. And I think that's why you and I, were talking earlier, why we respond to She-Hulk. And I know a lot of people dislike that show, but to me, it had a real sense of identity. I know, independent of the larger universe, This is basically what you were just saying. Independent of the larger universe, we know what story we're telling. I didn't get that impression with this, and I think it's a little bit tricky that they probably do this with a lot of Marvel properties, but they have more material to pull from, so they're able to be like, well, this comic story. Echo doesn't really have that. I don't know that did she ever have her own standalone run? Probably like some miniseries. But she's mostly been a supporting character in Daredevil and Avengers, and so there's not as much material there. All that said, there's definitely merit in doing this, the more indigenous representation, more deaf representation. It's definitely a setting and a character and stuff like that Marvel has not tackled. It just felt like a corporate mandate that unfortunately a bunch of really talented people were forced to like, I guess this is what this is, as opposed to be able to do their own thing, tell their own story, use it as a jumping off point.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, though, DJ. I mean, it is cool. We are seeing significantly more sign language
Yeah.
in television and movies. This show does something that I haven't seen a comic book show do yet, which you're right, showing Indigenous people as well as the deaf community, and requiring the audience member to really watch it, right?
Yeah.
Because now we're in their world and you need to be reading.
Yeah.
You can't be doing other things, right? So that was cool. I also think that Fisk is just maybe the best villain I think that Fisk, when he is on screen, I am scared. Vincent D'Onofrio does he's so good. It's awesome to see him, and I know some people think it's like over the top. For me, he is what a comic book villain should be, which is this this presence, this strength, this like, oh my God, what is going to happen next? I don't know where he's going. And you can't predict his reactions.
Yeah.
Which I do really like him as a villain. I think he's really, really great villain.
Yeah, I agree.
So seeing more of him was one of my favorite parts of the show, because I'm like, okay, I'm glued to him. I got to know what his reaction to this is going to be. I mean, I think why this show somewhat works is a lot in part to him.
I think he's really great, and it's good seeing more of him, and I look forward to seeing even more of him. But save that for spoilers. Put a pin in that. A couple Discord questions before we move to spoilers. Jake Hefner, is the content worth the MA rating? And I'm going to be honest, Jake, I forgot that it was rated MA until you asked that question. So I guess no.
Huh. I mean, what age would you say this could be for, DJ?
It's definitely not as brutal as the Netflix shows.
For sure not. For sure not.
But listen, man, I don't know. The rating system's such bullshit because Monica and I've been going back and watching Miyazaki movies. And I remember loving Princess Mononoke, but I haven't seen it in years. And it's like PG-13, and there's a character shooting people's heads off with arrows and shit. And it's like, I'm so sorry, what's happening? This is PG-13? So I don't know. It doesn't feel any more violent than anything in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I would say it feels no, I would say that's a good comparison.
Yeah. Kraka Please asks, how do you feel about all the episodes dropping at once versus weekly or daily? Like, what if? Is this Disney Plus just trying to figure out what strategy works best, or maybe something else?
I think that the best shot they had at getting people to watch this was it dropping at once.
Yeah.
Because specifically for this property, not for all their properties, but I don't know if it wasn't all available and if it wasn't January where a lot else is out, that I would even have watched this whole thing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I feel like this is them kind of dumping the show. It doesn't feel like they were hugely confident about it. And I do think, and it made me wonder if maybe something like Secret Invasion, if it had dropped all at once, maybe that would have been a better experience. And now that I'm saying this out loud, maybe that benefits Netflix, that it's easier to down trash. You know, like if you don't have a week, like having a week in between like Game of Thrones episode, it's like, oh my gosh, you have to unpack all this stuff. But if it's basically just filler, which unfortunately a lot of these shows are, dropping it all at once, it's like, all right, good enough, fine.
Yeah, that's very true. For a great show, I really stand by the drop 2 or 3 episodes at first, then go weekly.
Yeah.
That's what I think works best. Get me invested, and then go weekly. But for a mid show, dropping it all at once is fine.
Yeah. So let's do spoilers. Spoilers, everybody. If you haven't seen Echo yet, tune away. I think for me, the best episode easily is episode 4, the second to last episode, because not only do we get Maya confronting her relationship with Kingpin, it's the most Kingpin centric episode, and like you, Roxy, I think Vincent D'Onofrio does a great job in the role. I think some of the stuff they did in Netflix's Daredevil didn't quite work for me, but I definitely think this guy stands far above most MCU villains. I will say the poor indignities this character has faced since entering the MCU. He's gotten his ass beat by a teenager. He went on some sort of like spirit flashback thing. And I could just see Kingpin on the plane like, man, fuck, a couple years ago, I didn't have to deal with any of this shit. I was just fighting some street level guys and it was nice and chill. And now I've got magic to deal with. But
DJ,
yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
When you say we're going into spoilers right now,
Right now.
what do you feel like is the spoiler other than the end of credits? Like, how would you spoil this show? What happened?
I would spoil it by saying one of the spoilers I would say is if you've read the comics, you know that Maya does not have powers. She does not have abilities. I think currently in the comics she possesses the Phoenix Force, but that is a recent development. And as a fan of street level heroes, I'm kind of tired of the MCU's seeming disdain for telling those stories. We've given Moon Knight powers, we've given Shang-Chi powers, we've given Echo powers, and it's like, can't they just be people? Like, can't we can't, like, one of the most successful superheroes ever is Batman, and he doesn't shoot magic lasers out of his fingers. Like, I don't understand why. I don't know if there's some Marvel exec that just loathes the idea of somebody not having an ability. I don't know what I'll tell you the way it feels. It feels like a very cynical studio note of them trying to chase that Black Panther magic. Like, everybody loved the way we did Wakanda. Everybody needs a Wakanda. Now, if they're not white, they need a Wakanda. So that's why Shang-Chi has a mystical realm with a dragon in it. That's why Echo has. I love the idea of her dealing with her relationship to her ancestors. I don't know why they're giving her special powers. And I do not know the specifics of how they were made. So it could very well be, people from these communities that want this part of their culture represented. That is not the way it comes across to me. It very much feels like, just like if it's a non-white character, it's like, yeah, look at these magical non-white people. And it's like, they can just be people that live lives and can kick ass real good. It doesn't need to be in my opinion, it doesn't need to be magic. There's characters, for example, they just made in What If, they introduced Kahori, who's an indigenous woman, also played by Devery Jacobs, who is in this show, who's connected to the Cosmic Cube and has magical powers. She is a new character of that show, so there's no precedent. But it works. That episode is one of the best episodes of season 2. And I don't know, I don't understand why we need to shoehorn in something like that into Echo.
PJ, that's what you would say is the biggest spoiler? What I really am looking for is what happened in this show.
For the Echo stands out there, I think that's one of our questions. Mike Joyce, after watching Echo, what do you think the purpose what do you think was the purpose of it? Did anything happen?
Yeah, I just mean not even purpose, plot. Like, I don't feel like it's interesting because Leonard Kimmon here was saying that he wished it was longer.
Yeah.
He said, I think Echo was a really good show that could have been awesome if it was longer. And I felt like we were trying so hard to get to 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I think at one point it was supposed to be 6. I was actually surprised to learn that it was 5. I thought I'd heard it was 6, so I guess they chopped down more. And
I don't mean this in a rude way to the show. I just genuinely want to know, like, what happened in this show.
well, Echo did
And
not become the queen pin like she was, which I actually thought was a really good motivation that they kind of dropped pretty early in the show. And Kingpin decided he wanted to become mayor. Roxy,
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Other than the 1 minute post credit scene,
I don't disagree. I will say that's actually been Marvel's bread and butter for a while, where the only meaningful plot point, one of the only meaningful plot points in Far From Home, is the post credit scene where Spider-Man's identity is revealed. Do you know what I mean? So I think this problem, and I think this is true of a lot of the criticisms of Marvel MCU's phases 4 and 5. These are actually issues that have existed for a long time, but their characters we're not as familiar with.
We didn't have that issue. There's actually stuff happening in Falcon and Winter Soldier. In Loki, I'm not exactly sure what it's leading to, but it did have a plot that is supposedly leading to something. Like, there's changes from, it's an arc, it's a story arc. I'm trying to, not really in She-Hulk, except for the fact that I don't put that, maybe that's why She-Hulk's my favorite. It's a comedy, so it didn't really need that. It was more like a sitcom almost. What is this one?
Well, I think from that point, I think that's some of the if you're looking at greater connection to the MCU, which I think the MCU has trained its audience too well to do that, and these shows should be allowed to exist on their own. But it is, Maya starts this season wanting to replace Kingpin, and at the end she decides that's not the world she's a part of. She doesn't belong to the Kingpin. She belongs to this indigenous community. She's going to stay with this community and leave behind her criminal past. That's an arc. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with the wider MCU.
It's kind of an arc. But at the beginning, she's not Kingpin, and at the end, she's not Kingpin.
Yeah, but her goal is to become the Kingpin, and what she learns is to accept her. And listen, I'm not saying it's elegantly done, and I think that speaks to my issues with the show, that it lacks identity in that sense. But I don't know that it's a problem that's unique to this show. Like, what's the arc of Secret Invasion? Like, the Skrulls are invading, and now they're not. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's some like major deaths in that one and stuff.
But again, so that's more MCU connected. And so that, I think that comes to a question of like how, I think that's something that Marvel needs to figure out.
How did this show move the plot forward of the MCU? I'm saying, because
but is that a responsibility of these shows?
I don't think it's a responsibility of the shows unless the show is taking that on as a responsibility, which I feel like this show did.
Okay.
This show said, we are very interconnected.
But it has that Marvel Spotlight banner, which is supposed to say, actually, it's not that interconnected.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came on quick, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I don't know, but that's not what it's saying to me. I mean, they're saying we've got Daredevil, we've got Kingpin.
Yeah.
It is going to matter to Fisk's future. It's saying it's connected, and we've seen Echo elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
So then what is, you're right. It's not specific to the show where this is the only one. There's a problem. And I don't want to harp too negatively on this show, because it isn't a this show thing. I just don't love that there was no forward momentum for the MCU. And while there's an emotional arc for Maya, there's no actual arc plot-wise for Maya.
Yeah, so
she starts not being something and she ends not being something, and the only thing that changes is her mind.
Her perspective on it. I actually think there's a lot of value in that, but this is not me disagreeing with you. I think the issue is, I think again, the show could have used it. What it feels like is I'm watching a show that went one way, and then they went back and they recut the shit out of it to work another way. And so now it doesn't really work either way. It doesn't work. If you're saying, I actually think saying Maya's emotional arc matters, but if that's what you're doing, then that's what the show should be about more. And there's a lot of characters we're introduced to. So like the guy that runs the roller rink, is that her dad's brother? I don't know Maya's relationship to this person prior to them meeting, but they know each other. But I don't know what that is. That's a problem. If my investment is supposed to be Maya and her emotional journey, I should who is Biscuits, I think is the character's name. That actor's great.
He was really good.
Who is Biscuits to Maya? He's not in the flashbacks. I don't know the relationship prior to this moment. The one that worked, and I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of the actors kind of struggled with, not Maya obviously, but a lot of the non-deaf actors struggled creating drama around signing. Except Chula, her grandma. There's a scene in episode 4 between Maya and Chula that I think is the best scene in the entire show, and that actress does a really good job. We needed more. I understand Maya's relationship to Chula. I understand why there's conflict there, and I'm invested in that. A normal show would have said, okay, you need to understand who these supporting characters are. You need to understand who they are to Maya. You need to understand who Maya is and what she wants, so that when we get to the end, when those relationships change, it means something. And I think this show exists in this weird middle space where, and I think most Marvel shows do. Wait, is that what we're doing? Or are we telling another chapter in the MCU? And I think most of these shows would do a good job of just and I think that's what you and I are saying we liked about She-Hulk. Forget the MCU. It's a tool if you have an opportunity to hey, we can bring Daredevil in here to tell more of our story. But that doesn't matter. This isn't chapter 14 of the MCU. This is chapter 1 of Echo, or this is chapter 1 of She-Hulk, or this is whatever. Forget all that shit. And I think this struggles with that. So this is not me disagreeing with you.
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you completely. I also, speaking of the positives, I love the actress that played Bonnie. I think she's really good.
Deborah Jacobs. Yeah, she plays.
No, the one who plays Bonnie.
Bonnie's. That's
Deborah. What did you call her?
I think it's Deborah Jacobs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's right.
Good.
I think that said Betty something.
No. Deborah Jacobs, who was also in Res Dogs.
Reservation Dogs.
Yeah.
I think she's super effing good.
Yeah.
And I liked the flashback. I liked their relationship too. I thought that was more interesting. Yeah, one way or the other. If we're gonna make this an emotional journey, and this is all about one girl's decision to change her mind about something, then I wanted it to be solely and fully on her relationships.
Yeah.
And let's just focus on that.
You can't start with, and I guess they do, but you can't within the first 20 minutes have to be by the way, here's her relationship to Kingpin, here's her relationship to Daredevil. That can't be what your show is. Right. That can be in there. And I wonder if there's an edit of this show, because the first 20 minutes is so previously on the MCU. I wonder if there was a version of this where we start with her back in Oklahoma, and as we unfurl that story, we flash back to, by the way, this thing she's doing now is like that time she fought Daredevil. You know what I mean? Here, because that's how you would normally structure a show like this.
Yes.
And I think it just comes back to, I think Marvel is confused on how to make. It seems to me they don't know how to make TV shows, because the times it has worked, really worked, is in those reports that leaked about the MCU. Jessica Gao, who show ran She-Hulk, was the only one invited back to do the editing and post. And so maybe that's why it feels more like a TV show. And I think What If, because it's animated and you can't just wing it on the day for an animated show. You have to have a plan ahead of time. And those are the only ones that felt oh yeah, this is a TV show. You know what I mean? This is something that you can and I think they, especially, they really need to dial it in with Daredevil, because we have 3 seasons of that show.
I know.
So people have something to. It's not like Echo. We have something to compare it to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it can't be like this.
I'm noticing that my feedback on this show is kind of all over the place, and that's because the show didn't work for me.
And I would also say that the show is kind of all over the place, unfortunately, as much as I am rooting for it. I think that's a very valid. I think the show's all over the place, and it's a bummer.
But not the worst show that they've done, and not horrific, and I didn't finish it and feel that was the biggest waste of my time. It just didn't fully work, and therefore I didn't love it.
Yeah.
And don't even know how to put my finger on exactly the areas that it just wasn't working for me.
Yep. So those are. And before we go, last thing, Leonard Kim. Moving forward, where do you think Echo's place is in the MCU? In the MCU will be Avengers, Thunderbolts, antagonist to Spider-Man or Daredevil. And I'm going to be honest with you, Leonard. I think there's a few MCU characters they've introduced on these Disney Plus shows, and unfortunately, I think Echo's one of them, that I wouldn't be surprised if we never saw them again.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, DJ. But I guess more importantly, maybe not more importantly, what's happening with Fisk now? Where are we going to see this?
I'm assuming the new Daredevil show.
Which was supposed to be this year, but now it's going to be next year.
I will feel lucky if we get it next year because I think they're like reshooting the whole thing.
Okay.
I hope that the lessons they've learned from this is okay. We're making TV, so we need to get people in here that know how to make TV. We need a showrunner. I think you could do. Unlike some people, I do think Daredevil on Netflix had its flaws. I don't think it was perfect, but you could do worse than pulling one of the showrunners from one of those seasons and say, "Hey, you know what you did? Do it again and bring back fucking Foggy and Karen." I don't know why we're not doing that, especially since this show.
Are we not doing that?
No. And especially since Echo went out of its way to reference plot points from like the.
Why are we not doing that, DJ? How do you know that?
Just there's been no announcement. Both actors have been like there's no involvement, and I mean so like maybe a post credit scene, but
weird.
You couldn't be filming a whole show and have supporting cast members be secret. You know,
DJ, that is super weird.
Yeah, and I think there's this like that classic like studio exec thing like no, it's my show now. We can't have the old show, and it's like, well, fucking get over that, man. Because I think with Echo, they just announced that like the Netflix shows do fit in continuity. Obviously, again, Kingpin references parts of his backstory specifically from Daredevil, which is a little tricky because I don't know how Echo fits into that equation. Because he's known Echo a lot longer than when that show was on the air. But whatever. Mike Joyce says, I thought it was reported that Foggy and Karen get killed. That would be a fucking mistake. unless those actors are unwilling to come back, that would be a mistake. Before we go, Roxy, where can the people find you?
Everywhere at Roxy Stryer.
You can find me at DJ Talks Trash. Please, 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 once again, go to gunplaymovie.com. Click that notify me on launch. It'll be super helpful, and stay tuned. That campaign should be launching very soon, and you're going to want to be there on day one. You can find me at DJ Talks Trash, and you can find the show everywhere that matters at Only Stupid Answers, but on Twitter /X.
You ain't got the vowels from stupid.
And we will see you all next time.